Longer. Oh, hey, August 26, 2020. And I got to tell you, Anthony, you're looking sexier than usual today.
Thanks, Glenn. I feel really sexy today. Glad to be here.
All right, the beloved Chris Green is joining us from Chesapeake Hospitality. You're probably saying to yourself, guys, where is Anthony today? Well, believe it or not, Anthony is more loyal to his family than either you and me. Chris, he's taking his daughter up to college for her first time today. Very exciting to see that. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. My wife just took my daughter back to college in upstate New York last week, so we're right there with him, and family's a priority, so I'm glad he's doing that.
Yep. So I got to tell you, Chris, I know you managed the Showboat in Atlantic City, and I happened to go down there. We broadcast yesterday from Atlantic City, and I apologize to everybody for not doing it from Showboat. I promise we will do it next time. But we had an opportunity to go over to the Borgata and interview their fearless leader, President and COO Melanie Johnson. I highly recommend that you all go check that out to get a deeper understanding about what they're trying to do with that property. Atlantic City, you were just saying before we got on air, you're still selling 800 to 900 rooms a night.
Yeah, we're busy. I mean, it's busy down there.
What's going on?
It's just people getting away from the cities. I mean, we're seeing that. So I've got several hotels that are just outside of major cities that are location. They've got nice locations, either the waterfront or oceanfront, and those hotels are very busy. And as a matter of fact, I was on the phone of mine with a friend who he went up to the Homestead last week in Virginia, which is out in the country. And he said it was packed. He said you couldn't even get up to the bar. It was packed. So we are seeing this mass dispersion between city center and certain types of convention hotels, and then hotels where people can get away from the big cities and kind of social distance.
Yeah, it's really becoming a situation of the haves and have-nots. So we're going to be exploring that a little bit today on No Vacancy Live with Out Anthony and Glenn. But, Chris, it's really interesting to me because you were also saying some of your hotels seem to be doing relatively well. It sounded like in terms of occupancy numbers, a little bit lower than it would have been a year ago or so. But some, it's absolute, devastation, worst case scenario. What's that split? It's got to be urban versus not urban, yeah?
It is. As a matter of fact, before I came on today, I was looking at the global STR data, and it's so interesting to look. The chain scales come out on a weekly report, and it kind of goes up from economy all the way up to luxury. And as you go up, starting at economy, it's like 60%. And as you go up the little ladder of hotels, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Like extended stay, 47. And then you get into luxury and upper upscale, where I play a lot of other hotels I have, and you're at like, 40%, 38% occupancy, and a RevPAR down 60%. So, we have hotels in city center that are just struggling. And then we have hotels, like I said, that are in resort style locations or drive markets where there's a lot of, so sports is traveling, soccer teams are traveling, sports are traveling. So we're seeing that in drive-to markets, but just not in the urban and city center locations. It's just business travel is almost non-existent.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. I was just talking to a friend today. She does real estate in New York City and wanted to get a behind-the-scenes understanding of what's happening there. And in places like New York, it's not so great. But today, we're going to focus on the positive, Chris. We're going to take a little bit of the negative, the challenges and opportunities that hoteliers have. And that's why we're going to have a couple of general managers to chat with us today. So let's bring them in right now. All right, leading off, we got Nick Rimedio. You might remember him. He's been on the show a couple of times from Le Pier, a Kimpton property that's in downtown Los Angeles. And, of course, we have somebody else who's coming on the show. But as soon as I was about to put them on air, I guess their internet crapped out on them. And we will bring in John right now. Hey, John, love your internet. Great timing there for you.
Little technical difficulty, man.
Oh, well, don't worry. We were standing by. I was just killing time so you could come back on. So, all right, we've got a little case of East Coast versus West Coast. John's property is in Wildwood, New Jersey. He's the owner of the Daytona Inn there. Wildwood is more of a summer resort town. And I'm sure a lot of you out there may have heard of the town of, Los Angeles? What is that? Where are you at there, Nick?
I'm in West Hollywood.
Right.
California.
West Hollywood, downtown-ish LA, around that whole kind of area, just for people that don't understand the LA region. So, Nick, let's start off with you. We've had you on a couple of times already.
Sure.
What is the state for things for you today? The last time we had you on, producer Jeff was over there. It looked like you were just getting back up and running. You had just started your food and beverage. I think that was about 6-8 weeks ago. How are things going right now?
No, I'm really excited to say that, from going from like 3% in April, 9% in May, we'll probably finish August right around 32%. So, a market improvement, nowhere near where we should be, around 90%, but still, growth nonetheless. We're now offering food and beverage 7 days a week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We've brought back probably 20 team members, which is always the best thing when you're able to recall your employees. And we've been developing kind of a pop-up series, or I'm calling it a pop-up bazaar here at Lapeer Hotel, where, right now we have more than half a dozen local businesses that are basically living in the hotel, places that have lost their own locations or were unable to, continue or had to suspend operations, that have since relocated into vacant space that we have here at the hotel. Taking a page from you, Glenn, with no vacancy.
Excellent. I really love that. That's a way to do it. Chris, is that what he's saying makes sense to you with what you're experiencing in your portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing Nick's got a beautiful hotel out there. The one thing, especially in his environment, I think he's got some opportunity in F&B, which he's got a beautiful Italian restaurant, I believe, in his hotel, and does a great job with his bar service. So he's probably getting a little bit more street traffic than I get in a lot of my full service. So we're not seeing the restaurant activity yet. There is demand for several things going on right now. Ghost kitchens, maybe even renting out your kitchen space to people who have lost their space to continue catering. And then these opportunities to fill your banquet space with businesses that may be displaced right now or need meeting space. So some of it's happening, but frankly, I mean, Nick and I are running in the same circle as far as on the full service occupancies. I mean, high 30s, low 40s is about what it's at right now, unless you're in a resort location.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I promise to get to you in a second, but things are going a little too well for you right now. So I don't want to ask you this next question. Nick, you got to get creative. You got to think differently.
Sure.
How has this forced you to be creative?
I mean, it's every day. I mean, it's taking, as Chris said, it's taking a meeting room and saying, what can we put in here? And we found a local artist who's using it as a studio, as an office space, and as a gallery.
That's great.
The guy's literally here 7 days a week. Kids can wander in. He's really great with kids. Then all of a sudden you have a spontaneous art class happening. Talking about kitchen space, we brought in the hottest restaurant that opened in LA in January called Olivetta. They don't have any outdoor dining space whatsoever. So we just kicked off a series with them last week that's going to run through at least November, where they're doing alfresco dining around our pool and our patio, adjacent to our courtyard. So now we have literally 2 restaurants to offer our hotel guests and locals. The key really is keeping your hotel energized and using that as a competitive advantage against other hotels where there's nothing going on. And that's something that we've really been able to capitalize here at Lapeer Hotel.
Yeah, that's excellent. All right, so a little bit of good news. John, you're down the shore, as they like to say, in Jersey over there. We just go to the beach up here in New York. I don't know why you guys get to go down the shore. But things have been pretty good for you. And might I say, you got Kathleen Collins from Choice over here, who's a veteran and lives in Wildwood. So she's with Revenue Management and Choice. How coincidental is that? How are things going, John? Before the show, you said pretty damn good.
Yeah, I can't complain, fellas. I have to say.
Yeah, don't, because it'll be very unbecoming of you right now.
My experience from March until today is vastly different. March, April, May, basically the reservations just stopped, and that is a busy time for us on the shore towns. Especially, we take a lot of reservations for stays in June, July, and August, and that faucet just kind of got shut off. Which is a revenue stream for us. It's basically a 0% loan for a lot of us mom and pop hotel owners that deposit money. So now, this many months later, you know, a lot of us are at 100% occupancy. A lot of it has in large part to do with what Chris had mentioned earlier. You know, we're in a resort town.
Yeah.
We also have a very, very wide beach. In some areas of our beach in Wildwood, it's 5 football fields wide, so it's plenty of room to spread out. A lot of exterior corridor properties that in the past would have been, you know, a negative. It's turned into a positive, especially the ones that have modernized over the last 5, 6, 7 years and can offer a brand new room or a suite with a kitchenette for a family, an extended family. They don't have to enter interiors at all except for their room, which has been completely sanitized. And we've upped our game, definitely, without a question. It was an easier transition for some of us than others because we're already the ones that were already holding cleanliness to the highest regard have easily transitioned post-COVID.
Right.
Well, I should say during COVID.
Right.
So,
yeah, we tend to say post-COVID because
Yeah,
the
it's not over.
emergency, the immediacy
Right.
of it's over, but this
Sure.
is going to be lingering. Chris?
We're hoping. So I don't know, John, if you do track segmentation or where your guests are arriving from, but I'm just interested
Sure.
to hear, have they expanded where they're arriving from? Has the drive distance become
Yes.
greater, or are you still seeing
It's-
guests coming in from your standard areas?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. It's definitely expanded. Our market drive-in is within millions of people from New York, North Jersey, and Pennsylvania and the suburbs. It's extended now to Rehoboth customers in Delaware. It's extended to Virginia Beach. It's extended to Ocean City, Maryland customers. These are all resort areas that are similar to Wildwood in some ways. But we don't have the branded hotel towers that they have. We're, like I said, more mom and pop. We do have some luxury properties, but not as many as those resort areas. So like I said, it is definitely, yes. The short answer to your question is yes, it's definitely grown. And we're hoping to continue that because a lot of these customers have never visited Wildwood before, and this is their first taste of Wildwood. And I got to be honest with you, they're thrilled.
Right. Of course. That's a very interesting position to be in all of a sudden. The world is upside down. Even for you, you might be the benefit of the upside down, but it still means a change of strategy and figuring out new ways to take advantage of the situation. So, Chris, you made a great point about this is a chance to get new customers in the door, which is happening, and get them excited about that hotel or about said brand. Are you finding that as well?
I mean, I am, and I think Nick probably is too. We're definitely seeing a different segmentation of our guests. I was on a call with one of the major brands yesterday, and we were reviewing broad segmentation of performance, and even the whole brand is seeing different segmentation happening, which is not surprising, right? The hardcore business travelers are still sitting on the sidelines.
Yep.
And people are leisure, they're taking kids to college, or they're going to these properties and getting out. They're like going to the Showboat, or they're going to Wildwood, and they got to get away because they're just so tired of being in the house. So that's what we're seeing is kind of this knee-jerk reaction. I got to get out, travel. But when I go, I'm going to drive.
Right.
I'm going to stay somewhere probably with an exterior corridor. We were talking yesterday, my team, that we have a lot of big, beautiful interior corridor, downtown, full-service F&B hotels.
Right.
Those were the thing. That was the thing, And even in Independence, where people want the experiential travel. Well, now there's not really experiential travel happening. It's more,
Right.
I need a safe, clean room with easy access to where I drive to and not where I fly to. It's turned everything upside down currently.
Yeah, Nick, you've been turned upside down. That's why you're trying to get creative. Are you finding some of the things you're doing? Obviously, you're not filling the rooms like John is able to currently,
Sure.
but are you finding you're able to, when people come in, they find themselves participating spontaneously in a kid's art class, maybe you're selling some food and beverage behind that, or at least getting people to say, wow, we need to stay here sometime?
No, absolutely. I mean, we've seen just the surprise of people to hear that we have, food and beverage available. It's the little things that you take for granted that you didn't think you would ever, be impressed with. But, definitely having, a full service hotel right now is a rarity. Being able to, as Chris had mentioned, experiential travel certainly is down. But in a metropolitan area like LA, we're seeing our segmentation really reflect the local
Right.
traveler. So tons of staycations. And being in that metro area, we do have a cosmopolitan guest that is still looking for something to do other than just sit in front of a pool. And that's where our pop-ups really have lifted off and really helped us, create those experiences that we've already had repeat guests who've come back. They were with us in June, and back again in August, and looking at coming back out in October, because they're not able to take the 2 or 3 week vacations to Europe that they may have taken, or to Asia. So instead, they're breaking it up into 3 and 4 day stay patterns, which is right down the middle for a hotel like Lapeer.
Interesting, Chris.
So Nick, I was thinking about you and looking at. I was kind of reviewing your website for the restaurant and bringing back your F&B. Question I had that I think a lot of people that are watching would want to know is, we're bringing people back, right? I don't know about you, but I'm way down. I'm still 1,200 associates down, and I don't know how close I'm going to get to bring them back. But as you're bringing back these F&B associates with volumes down, how are the associates feeling about coming back to work, A, and then B, are they making money right now?
Great question. And I think, in terms of how we're bringing people back, it's very much a granular process in terms of, we started with 2 bartenders and a cook. And as those business volumes were able to sustain itself, we then were able to bring back a dishwasher for a couple days a week. Mm-hmm. And then we were able to add back a busser. Awesome. Now we've added on, a server. And so we're kind of filling out the team as we're seeing that revenues can support that. We were break even in June. We made a little bit of money in July. We're going to make some money in August.
Awesome.
And so we're taking that approach. In terms of the team members, for the most part, most are really excited to be back to work. And they are making some money because, we're not, bringing back 20 servers. We're only bringing back 2. Right. With that, I would say that from a leadership or a managerial perspective, it's really getting team members to really embrace the flexibility of the role. They're not just a bartender. They're a server now. They're a busser. They're working multiple positions, and they're able to benefit from that. But it does require that mindset as well as that management support to be there for them.
Right. Nick, are you a union hotel?
We're not.
Okay, that probably explains why you're able to do more of the cross skills for the different jobs. John, I want to talk a little bit about exterior corridor hotels. Kyle makes a really good point. He thinks it was a mistake for the big brands to phase out exterior walkways when Disney and Universal Lowe's had success with it. I think we need to have a little lesson in a minute or two about why all of that happened, which we will get to. But I'm curious, John, when you bought the hotel, did it have a brand associated with it? And what have been the benefits and maybe a drawback or two about having exterior corridor hotel?
That's another great question, Glenn. Well, you just brought up Disney, and that's a great point. When my son, who's 18 now, he's a freshman at Villanova. When he was 8, I took him to Disney World for the second or third time in his life, and we stayed at the Port Orleans. Well, It was a beautiful property. I loved it. He enjoyed it, and it's all exterior corridor. And now that can be reproduced on a smaller scale with a lot of these exterior corridor hotels if they're done correctly. And in my opinion, it's not necessary for our market in Wildwood to be. You can be successful without being branded. I didn't know that when I first bought the hotel. I had no experience in the hotel business. I had some experience in real estate. So I thought, well, the Days Inn is always busy. That's really the only branded hotel on the island. So maybe we should be branded. Well, in 2003, then, after about 2 years of doing it over the phone, taking bookings, I decided to sign up for Expedia. I was one of the only properties. In fact, I was the only property besides the Days Inn. And at the time, there was a Best Value Inn, which was not a great property. And what we did was we were the only 3 hotels. And so you can imagine we had the market cornered.
Right. Yeah.
So the short answer is that no, in our market, it's not necessary to have a brand. You can be very successful, very profitable in Wildwood without being branded. Now, having said that, there was a branded property that opened up across the street under a private label, but it's a Choice Hotel, but it's one of Choice Hotel's private label brands. So it doesn't have any branding on the hotel.
Right, so that's the Ascend collection.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a comment from James Umbach on.
I know exactly.
He hit it. He hit the main reason why hotels went interior corridor.
James, sorry about that, James. Wrong comment. Boom.
There we go.
Right.
Yeah, and it goes to the safety and security, and quite frankly, the segmentation of traveler that was going to most of these locations, it was male and female business travelers.
Right.
And there's an added level of security for interior corridor. That's just a fact, and that's why the brands went that way.
That's absolutely correct. And to add a little layer of depth, as more women started to come into the workplace, it became an issue for a lot of the mainstream brands, which were simultaneously, I think, seeing the biggest building boom that they have ever had. And they realized that not only could they use it as a marketing tool to get people to stay at their hotels, but also, Chris, simultaneously, they could charge more to build those hotels and to license those hotels because of that perceived upscale feeling compared to what the traditional exterior corridor motel was perceived as in our society.
Glenn and Chris, could I just interrupt 1 second? I don't disagree about the safety issue. However, I want to be perfectly clear that
we're not saying
I know, but your listeners, I absolutely agree with you, but your listeners might be a little, maybe they're not exterior corridor customers, but our segment in Wildwood are mostly mom and pop, owner operated, with the owner on property, high levels of security cameras all around the property. And in my case, I have overnight security roaming the property at all times, especially when we're super busy like right now.
Cool.
And I want to be clear, John, too. I mean, I know it's obvious you run a quality operation, and the good quality operators have all the security in place. And I love staying in exterior corridor places, especially when I'm at beach locations or whatever. That's just the reason that brands went that way.
Absolutely.
I will say there's the hotel brands more recently. And when we talk about this, we're really going back 20 years when they made this decision. So what was happening 20 years ago was there was a lot of ramshackle type of hotels before you, John, came in and created your hotel. That led to the decision by the brands to do that. Fast forward in the last 5 years, when great operators like you came aboard and started creating great exterior corridor hotels, all of a sudden the light bulb went off again with the major brands, and they said, holy crud, we're missing a fantastic opportunity here. Now,
and it's not going to work.
Boutique, right?
And of course, it's not going to work in every market, right? An exterior corridor property is not going to work in every market. But for Wildwood, we have a rich history of retro hotels. We call it doo-wop architecture. It's just another word for populux or mid-century modern. So we use it to our advantage. So when you go, you can visit it is doowopusa.org. And that is the Doo-Wop Preservation League's website. And what it does is you can marriage history and architecture with marketing. And it really does help our bottom line with the properties that do buy in, but modernize. Yeah. So you play up that retro look, but you modernize a lot like one of the most popular hotels in Orlando. The name escapes me, but it's one of the Universal Studios hotels. I believe it's the Cabana Bay.
Yeah, right.
They really play up that retro styling, and it works to their advantage.
And let me tell you, they stole that idea or were inspired by a lot of the companies out there, like your hotel, like the Postcard Inn in St. Pete, for example, that took old hotels and revitalized them and made them something that people want to come to that has that retro element to it. So while we talk about how the major brands got out of it, they really want to get back into it now in a big way. Your hotel in particular, which was branded formerly as an America's Best Value Inn, well, what Advantage do before they sold to RLH Corp? They created Signature Inns, which is making a motique, kind of like what you've done, taking those old hotels, putting a retro modern spin on them as well. And that's kind of changed everything, right, Chris?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you'll remember, Glenn, I don't know if you were there with me, but at lodging 1 or 2 years ago, there was a party at one of the hotels in Scottsdale, and it was a beautifully renovated. I think it's Juliana actually mentions it's here. The Three Palms. It's beautifully renovated exterior corridor hotel. And the thing is, these hotels are sitting on premium real estate, a lot of these hotels, and then having some vision. And actually, there's ways to put some screening on the corridors outside now. And it really feels a little bit semi-interior corridor. And they do a great job with the renovation. It was a beautiful, beautiful resort. And it was packed when we were there.
Yeah, well, let's kick it over to Nick, because you haven't spoken in a little while. Obviously, Nick, hold on one second. Obviously, Nick, you do not have an exterior car to a hotel, so let's move on to a different topic right now. How is your team doing? What are you doing to keep your team motivated under these unusual circumstances?
I think it's, being out in front with them, daily. There's always stressful situations that are going to come up, especially right now. And so empathizing is trite as that sounds, is key. And then also, really finding those opportunities to have fun, to laugh. I took our core team out to dinner to Craig's a few weeks ago, on my dime, really just to say thank you for the 5 months that they've stuck with me through this, unparalleled time. They've all gone way outside the norm in terms of what their job description was. They've all excelled. We've all learned a lot together. But finding those moments to say thank you, as well as to continue to innovate, and let them know that we don't exactly know what tomorrow or next week's going to look like, but we're going to keep our commitment to making things better, and realizing our potential. So that way it doesn't feel like you're stuck in kind of a mire or a muck.
Yep.
And we're just waiting for things to happen to us.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to get a little concerned, because in our hospitality universe family, we just got notice yesterday that the traditional kickoff to conference season for the year, Alice, held every January in LA, has been postponed from January to April. Not a good sign. Also, lodging conference, which was supposed to take place within the next 4 weeks, has been postponed until next year as well. So these events are really getting beaten up right there. So let's talk a little bit about technology. We got a question for you, Nick, from Steve. In your current F&B operation, have you made any technology shifts to embrace the contactless experience, or is your F&B solution about the same as last year? Great question, Steve. Thanks for doing our job for us.
Thanks for the question, Steve. So we're almost complete with going totally contactless with an ordering solution to work alongside our POS. And then we also have the menus with the QSR code that you can scan with your phone to pull those up. So we're in process. We've had those menus in place since we reopened.
Yep.
And we should have the orderless solution in place within the next week or two.
Is there anything that you would like to do that you haven't done yet or are not budgeted for that goes into your fantasy column, perhaps?
I think the fantasy column really is going to be has to become
Having guests again.
Well, no, I mean, because we're looking at as we're approaching the winter months, which everyone kind of laughs when you talk about winter in Los Angeles, but it does get into the 50s, low 40s, very windy. We don't see an end in sight for the block on indoor dining. So we're looking at creative solutions. So my wish list is, an enclosed tent of some kind to make sure that we can keep dining alive once we hit November, December. And, Glenn, as you mentioned, all of the major, not just Alice, but you have all the major award shows, the entertainment award shows.
Oh, yeah, they're out too.
They've all backed up into Q2. So now, we're looking at that time of year as now a major concern. So, the wish list for tenting, we're approaching for how do we plan for that.
Right. Chris, I want to ask you about that in a second. I think it's an important topic. But John, you don't have food and beverage currently, do you?
No, but we are within super easy walking distance to all the major breakfast spots, restaurants, bars. So for us, it's not really necessary. Plus, now with the relaxed ABC laws, which if you're not from this state, that means the Alcohol Beverage Control Board in New Jersey, we can get alcohol deliveries directly to the doors or the swimming pools. We have 2 swimming pools on the property, and our neighbors across the street can deliver beverage directly to them. So that's helped. And the restaurants have all transitioned. And these, let me tell you, I want to give a shout out to all the Wildwood restaurant owners. What a tremendous job they're all doing. I got to tell you, these guys have been, you're talking about restaurant guys who are owners who are in there. We're all short staffed too, by the way. All of us are. I normally have a staff of 17, so I have 8. These restaurant guys they're on the front lines, and they're helping out too to keep the tourism going for us, because without the restaurants, that's a big piece of tourism for us.
Huge. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely not been a factor for us to not have food or beverage.
All right. I want to get back. I want to talk about what I was going to say, but first, follow-up question. Then we'll get into long-term food. Are your guests demanding contactless text options, or are they seen more as a nice-to-have competitive advantage, Nick?
It's seen as a nice-to-have competitive advantage. We've not had guests demand that contactless technology. But it's something that is top of mind for us. And I think that, being quick to move on the menus, for example, was one key thing. And then we think that the contactless ordering solution will also be something great for guests. But at the same time, balancing out that people still are looking for humans to take care of them.
Absolutely.
And so that it's not just a crutch to eliminate bodies. We really need to have our service team out in front with our guests.
Yeah, and Chris, I think there's two things going on right now. Number one, the human tendency to say things are going to return quicker than they will, but also there's another tendency that says things are going to never get back to normal. Neither are correct. It's going to take a little bit longer, but we humans have been around for a very, 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 very long time. And it's socialism, not socialism as in give people money, but being social is built into our DNA, I think. So all of that stuff is going to come back. So let me bring it back to the food and beverage. I was at Borgata in Atlantic City, like I just said the other day. Anthony, myself, and our producer, David, had a lovely meal out by the pool. But it's August. Perfect evening. We were very fortunate. It's going to get colder in a lot of places soon. It's going to not be attractive. Nick mentioned that as well. What are the plans for outdoor dining that you're considering in the future as we get into the colder months in places that need to be concerned about the weather changing?
Well, where there's opportunity, we're doing the same thing Nick's doing, right? I've got some properties on the eastern shore of Maryland that do a lot of food and beverage, and we're looking at tenting and outdoor heaters and the availability of doing that, because we just don't have enough room to do it inside. Right. And also the restrictions are holding it back. So, creativity is what's really driving. And that's what I love about people in hospitality is we're creative by nature. We hospitality people, because we have so many problems every day, it's just a fact that we're always figuring out solutions. And so you're seeing some of the most creative solutions like what Nick's doing, and just being able to utilize spaces differently, and then thinking, if everything's off the table, what can I add to the table to make success? And I did want to comment on the technology piece too. Well, I'm not seeing it as a mandatory, but I am seeing that people just don't want to touch anything anymore, right? So it's almost subconscious, but they do want, as Nick said, the touch point of a server. Hello, folks, welcome to blank. I'm so glad to see you. Our specials are this. And then you can scan the QR code with your phone, which I love, the whole connecting your phone to your technology and letting QR codes and everything and using your personal device, because we use the personal device for everything. But it's going to be, to your point, Glenn, it's going to be blended, the result that we're going to be going towards. It's not going to be old way for sure. And it's not going to be the new way that everybody thinks nobody's going to ever go anywhere again. That's not going to happen. We're just going to be doing things a little bit differently and probably better. Even as hard and hurt as this is, we're going to learn a lot through this.
Right. And I think we should, for the temporarily call touch points is I'm not going to touch your points. So don't worry. But
I think that's a great point that Chris makes about technology. Even on a small owner level, you can utilize technology, and the price point for owners is so low now to get your hotel much more tech friendly and touchless. For instance, I'll give you a great example. We created a QR code sticker that basically says, hey, don't miss out, to get the guest's attention. And then they put their phone, and it directs them to use their camera phone to the QR code. And it brings you to a short video that we did for free. It didn't cost us a dime, just to give them helpful tips during this period of time we're going through on how to enjoy their stay in Wildwood.
That's very clever. Chris, what are some of the other creative things that you might be doing right now at some of your hotels?
We're doing a lot around virtual meeting planning, virtual space planning, virtual site tours with people. Our DOSs at the properties have engaged video, a ton of high-def video of our spaces, and then presets to walk people through, because we are booking meetings. As a matter of fact, to my surprise, our EVP of sales told me yesterday that we are 36% ahead of pace heading into 20 as to where we were heading into.
You mean heading into 21?
Heading 21 as we were into 20. Now remember,
I know.
everything's moved. And to your point about the conferences, I don't know if it's going to perform, but we are seeing bookings, mostly Smurf association stuff. We just did a big car show up in Gettysburg. It went off without a hitch. We got a 1,000-car parking lot, so it was easy to keep everybody away. But things are happening. You've got to be looking and mining the markets that matter. And that's what we're talking about, because there's some markets that are just not worth mining right now. So really being active in the markets that matter, social stuff, what Nick's doing, art. I mean, people want to get out of their house, and if they can just walk with their family and look at something interesting, or, be in an interesting place, but be separate, they're going to do that. And so it's fascinating time. It's hard.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it's a good point, Chris. It's hard, but in a crazy way, and I didn't feel this way in March or April and May, but it's made me this entire situation has made me a better hotel owner. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. It's made me a better hotel owner. I care more. I always cared, but I care more. I was always guest-centric, I call it. I'm even more guest-centric. It's really honed my skills and sharpened me in a way that I don't think it would have happened if this hadn't gone on.
Right.
I agree with you, John. Absolutely.
Chris, go ahead.
Every time this is my third big issue that I've dealt with, 9/11, and then every time we get better. And man, we don't want to deal with them. I mean, I'm really ready for no more black swans, but and it seems like this time we're obviously at the tip of the spear on it, right? We are leading the charge. Everything that affects us is hurt. Food, travel, everything. So we're at the tip of the spear. But so what are you going to do? You're going to give up, or we're going to embrace it and come out of this better and figure out, like guys like Nick and you're going to see that we're going to come out better, and we're going to lead the way out of this. So
you got to keep your not only your guests engaged, but your staff engaged. And when I say that, I mean, you got to keep them enthusiastic, because it's even tougher for these people now. It's really gotten me connected with my staff in a way that I was always connected to them, but I'm on the front lines with them. I'm helping them strip rooms. I'm emptying trash bags. I'm bringing down dirty linens. I'm doing all these things not only because we need the help and we're short-staffed. I'm doing it to show them that I'm the leader. I might be the boss, but I'm on your team. Right. And that helps them, makes them want to come back to work. And also, the other thing that helps is you got to pay them a living wage. And we do. I'm lucky enough. I'm blessed enough to be able to pay my staff, a wage that they're happy with, that they came back. My long-term staff came back, even with the benefits that were going on from the federal government and the state government. They didn't take them. They came back to work.
Yeah. Right.
I love John. I love what you're doing there, John. I mean, that's great. And especially being a first-time hotel owner. Here's, Glenn, you know how curious I am, right? And so listening to him makes me think, man, it's so good to have new blood in our business, because oftentimes us long-termers think, this is the way it is. And then you hear a guy like John come in, and he's so excited about his business, and he's living wage as people, and he's learning as he goes, but he's excited about it. That's the kind of stuff that really gets me excited. So thanks, John.
Yeah, my pleasure, Chris. But I mean, honestly, like it's a vastly different business I'm in that you're in. I'm on the front lines. I know each one of my employees' names, their kids' names, their grandchildren's names, and you can't expect you're in a much different position where you have, I forgot, you said you had quite a few hundred employees. It's a vastly different experience. It's much more personal. And I got to tell you, the first 12 to 15 years, it was a grind, man. It was a grind. I was building a brand from the ground up.
Wow.
So I'm only enjoying it the last 5 or 6 years, so much so that my little 3-year-old, Bella, she's with me all the time when she's with the hotel. And I got to tell you, like, it's a vastly different experience than when my son was 3 years old. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm grateful.
Nick, let's throw it back to you. We've been talking a lot about staff and stuff like that. What's the anxiety level of your staff? What have you done to ameliorate those feelings with them so they feel comfortable and putting them in the right mindset to perform to the highest level every day?
So I'm having monthly GM roundtables or meetings with my team, every single person, to sit and say, hey, how are things going? What are your thoughts? What can we do better? What are your safety concerns? Just to get that feedback. And that's been really, really important just to hear little things, from, my housemen who want goggles when they're stripping rooms. In addition to wearing the face mask, they just want something to protect their eyes. That's like a no-brainer. That's like, that's a $20 order on Amazon done, and to make sure that they feel heard. And additionally, it's just, it's continually being out there. There are some guests are very difficult right now. They don't buy that there's a pandemic. They're very upset about some of the county mandates from our own health departments that are suspending services in areas that they don't want to accept. And so they're taking out on our teams. And so I think, being out there in front to kind of catch those arrows when they're being shot is really important. But beyond that, it's people are generally really happy to be back to work. I would, agree with John. The employees that I have, they could have taken the benefits. They wanted to be here. They feel a sense of ownership in keeping the place alive, because our mission, right now is, ultimately we want to come out of COVID stronger than we were going in.
Right. Absolutely essential and a great way to handle it. Inspire, engage, connect with your employees, make sure they understand that they are part of the family. All right. So Rowan says NWA hospitality has lost many restaurants and the hotels are hanging on depending on the university and corporate, blah, blah, blah. I think some will fail by the end of the year. I don't know NWA hospitality in particular, but there will be many hotels that are not going to make it through this, unfortunately. Not necessarily because of the number of guests coming through the door, but because of the way that their loans and all of that was structured. Chris, we had talked a little bit about here on the show last week. I don't remember if you were on in that episode. The AHLA put out that scary statistic that 24% of hotels didn't pay their loans last month. That's
that's going to get worse. Yep. I mean, and listen, we're having a positive show, so I want to stay positive. And I do think this is something I've been thinking about a lot. We as hoteliers have to worry about getting people through the front door, giving them great service, reminding them why hospitality is great. There is a whole other part of the business that runs around in the back of my head and the hotel owners' heads: debt structure, debt payments. But honestly, those two are separate right now. They're together in the owner's mind, but they're separate because we've got to get people traveling. Right. And that's what I tell my sales team is we just need people traveling. Right. And then we're going to have to deal with the CMBS structures, the community banks, and figure out a back-end solution because you're going to have 4,000 or 5,000 hotels in financial trouble. And that's just not sustainable. It's not even actionable, quite frankly, for somebody to do something about. Right. They're going to have to, because here's the thing. It's not like, I'll use my company for example. It's not like Chesapeake Hospitality in February was a good operator in Pittsburgh, and then in March they're not a good operator. It's the pandemic, and we don't have anybody traveling, so we can't. So the banks are not going to say, "Oh, it's a bad operation. Let's flip this to a receiver that nobody knows and has to change the staff." There's too many hotels to do that right now. Right. So our job, and I think of myself first as an operator, is to get people traveling, to help them be safe, to care for them greatly, to motivate our staffs to be great and love on our guests, and then we'll work out the back end, the financial stuff. It's going to be hard and difficult and a grind, but it will get worked out. I have every confidence that it will. And don't necessarily take a look at hotels that may close in the future as really symbolic of the hotel industry falling apart. It may very well be that individual owner or ownership group was just extremely over leveraged and probably shouldn't have gotten involved in that deal to begin with. So there's a lot of nuances.
That's a great point. That's a great point, Glenn, because we saw this in 2008, right? Over leveraged. A lot of people in many different businesses and industries that maybe didn't belong there, or people that owned multiple properties, whether it's a second, third, fourth home that's an investment property that didn't really shouldn't have been owning that property. So this is also another great reckoning, right? Where we're going to see the better operators, the better owners, and the better operators are going to figure it out. And the ones that are, have their balance sheet in order are going to be fine. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be fine. And then the ones that probably shouldn't have bought 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 properties or what have you in their portfolio, right? They're going to be the ones that are going to be in big trouble.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Chris, you got a comment. I know it.
No, I mean, but the problem is we've talked about this.
Yeah.
We talked about this in 08 and 09, and I was begging people, and you'll remember, Glenn, we talked about this in 15 and 16. Don't over lever.
Yep.
But everybody was saying, well, we can do 80% now, and we can do extra mezz debt, and we can do this, and here we are. And honestly, I don't remember what the stat was, but I think over half of those hotels that are the 24% that didn't make their payment were already troubled assets
Right.
prior to February,
Which
because
makes
they had put. I mean, the underwriting on some of these hotels, like they underwrite the absolute best case, and then they loan 80% against it. It's a hard nut to crack.
That's right. So let me throw something out there, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, because it's been quite some time. But when the Great Recession came in, that was because of the housing crisis. And after that, a lot of rules were put into place about how much money somebody could actually buy. Investors had to put in a much higher percentage into it to prove that they could do it, to have more skin in the game. That worked for a while, and then as people forgot about the pain of the Great Recession and convinced themselves it could never happen again, restraints got loosened, people got more aggressive, people got sloppy, and here we are again. Nobody could have predicted this pandemic or a black swan event, but there are certainly people out there that took risks they shouldn't have taken, knowing that something was going to happen, even if it wasn't going to be nearly this severe. John?
Right. Well, the other important thing to remember, Glenn, and you're absolutely right, guys. You're on. We're all on the same page here. There's a fine line between greed and fear. Right. So it's just like the stock market. When it tanks, everybody's running for the exits. When it's up in the air, everyone thinks it's going to go.
Right. I'll pay extra.
I've owned for 20 years. I've owned that property for 20 years. I've had many opportunities to expand. In other words, let's get this property. Let's over leverage, right? And then what happens? Boom, something like this happens, and then you're having conversations with your wife. You're having conversations with whoever about, why did I do this? I should have done this, and this. My attitude has always been, until I get my property exactly where I want it to be, I'm reinvesting every year in that property. I'm reinvesting in my staff. I'm reinvesting in equipment. I'm reinvesting in FF&E, and that's just how it's going to be for me until I get my property exactly where it needs to be. And that's always the ultimate goal. And the thing about my goal is that I'll never reach it, right? Yeah. I'll always keep that goal just a little bit higher than what I can get to. So, yeah, okay, that's great. The guy down the street might own 6, 8, 10 properties, but walk into those properties. Ask the guests if they're really happy there. Or are they so short-staffed and stretched so thin that they can't reinvest in those properties?
Nick?
I have to throw in. I mean, I completely agree with the sentiment here, but I also would like to counter a little bit. I mean, what we're talking about is a percentage of owners who are over leveraged, and those are kind of the bad players, if you will. But we still have in our industry. I know my owners are in that group, and I'm not just saying that because they're my owners, but we have a lot of great owners who are out there who are hurting right now. We may be, GOP positive, but NOI negative when you have debt service. And we can't forget that, as we're moving along, that it's our responsibility, both as, operators, that we, the hotel industry, the lodging industry needs help from government. The PPP loans are not enough. We need more assistance, over the next 6, 12, 18 months, ultimately not to just protect owners, but to protect jobs. And protect our teams from making sure that we can continue to rehire the people that we've lost, and then to create new jobs along the way. And, with that, I think it's vitally important that as we're, focusing within our properties, that we have to stay focused on what's happening outside, working with your city governments. I know the city of West Hollywood's been absolutely phenomenal in assisting us in helping us create those outdoor dining zones, those other services that we desperately need right now, and making sure that bad laws and bad regulations don't come into place, like what's currently happening at LA County, where they're looking to create legislation that would just choke business, as well as the hotel industry, with some things that they think are good ideas, but they paid no attention to businesses whatsoever. So don't forget to look outside in your neighborhood to make sure that everything's sound as well.
That's a very good point as well. A lot of times it's not just the decisions you're making. It happens to be the jurisdiction that you're located in, which might have some effect on your future going forward. I do want to keep this positive here. As you reminded me, Chris, because we are trying to have a positive show. Kevin says, do you expect major consolidation pending? Well, yes. This is always going to be consolidation. That's the nature of up markets and down markets right now. Just last week, we saw that IHG and Accor were possibly flirting to merge. And I got to think from your point of view, Chris, when it comes to management companies, there are great operators out there, and there are operators out there that have created a lot of risk where they may need to be absorbed by other companies. How are you seeing the general consolidation market in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be, especially on the management side, there's going to be consolidation. I mean, I can tell you for sure, calls are flying around. We've received calls of interest, and there's other companies that I know have put out feelers to look for somebody to come in and bring some capital into the company and support it. And again, it kind of goes back to the hotel space, right? Chesapeake is a very disciplined company with our balance sheet, so we didn't expect this, but I knew something was coming at some point, and
of course,
I didn't expect it to be this deep. So we're in a good spot, but there are others that it's going to be a real challenge. I'm telling you, still as a manager, I told you at the beginning of the show, 35 to 40% occupancy. You can just figure that's my revenues, 35 to 40% of what I was expecting.
Right.
And so it puts extreme downward pressure on the management company, especially when you're trying to support owners that are going through what Nick was talking about, struggling with debt service, struggling with negotiations, and they need us to support them in all of the accounting work and the cash flow forecasting. So we're still doing 100% of our job, 40% of the money, just like a lot of hotels are. So that equation doesn't work for everybody. So there's going to be consolidation there. I'm really interested in the Accor IHG thing. I couldn't, from all the articles I read, I can't tell which way it would be, whether it be Accor over IHG or IHG over Accor. I know that the announcement yesterday was difficult for HTP taking the 103 properties and moving to Sonesta. That's a big hit for IHG.
Yes, so, and I'm trying hard to get Carlos Flores, the CEO of Sonesta, on the show shortly. So Carlos, if you're out there, we want you. Yeah, you're right. That was really rough on them, and they were worried that was going to happen. That's a story that's been in the news for the last month behind the scenes. Seems to be bubbling up to the surface now. John, you don't have to worry about any of this kind of stuff, but does it change your attitude about opportunities for you in the future?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say it is something for even a small operator to pay attention to. Look, I hate to say it like this, but there's going to be blood in the water, just like there was in 2008. There's going to be bargains.
Yep.
I expanded my property due to those bargains in 2009, 10, and 11.
Wow.
So yeah, it's going to happen again, and there's going to be assets that I'm sure my bank. I'm with a regional bank, Ocean First. Craig DeGenova, shout out to you, man. You really, Craig helped me out with PPP and with EIDL, and he really saved a bunch of our hides, along with Crest Savings Bank here in Wildwood. So yeah, they're going to have assets. They want to get off the books, right? So where are they going to go? They're going to go to the good operators with good balance sheets and say, hey guys, can you help us out? Take this off our books.
Yep, you're absolutely right. All right, so John brings up a good point. The government can't bail out every industry and all private owners. John, that is absolutely correct. It may feel like the government has bottomless pit right now of money, but they don't, and they won't. So it's incumbent and essential for everybody out there to make sure the hospitality industry is at the top of the to-do list for your representatives. I'm getting freaked out that the cruise industry is going to get a whole lot of cash that the hotel industry should be getting, because quite frankly, they may need it, but it really bums me out that they have all their ships registered in foreign countries and they're not giving Americans jobs. And what they're doing there is they're doing it so they don't have to pay taxes. They don't have to follow our labor laws. And now they're sitting there with their hands out waiting for lots of cash. How about the hoteliers in each and every market of this country that are struggling? The Americans that are putting money into the communities are the ones that need help most. That's why all of you need to contact your representatives in your neighborhoods. Who's your congressional leader? Call them on the phone. Explain how important hotels are to your community and jobs within the community. And let's all work on this together. Again, Chip Rogers of the HLA has been doing a great job, but it's incumbent on everyone out there to do their part as well, right?
Hey, Glenn, listen, I'd rather listen to you than the last 2 weeks of politicians. I got to tell you right now, man, keep it up, brother.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely, Glenn.
I appreciate this. This stuff gets me just so infuriated, and now that I don't have to fight with Anthony to get a word in, so I could go off.
Don't forget now. I'm the token bald Italian hotel guy who's the loudmouth here now today.
Yeah.
I'm not.
That's true. That's a very good point. And as always, I'm the token Jew on the show. Chris, what are you doing in your company to encourage people to get more politically involved, to get the message out? I don't necessarily mean standing out there and protesting or making your cause, but I mean actually connecting with folks on Capitol Hill.
I mean, I'm on the AHLA board for a management company. So, Chip and his team have done a great job. The problem is there's so much noise. And so everybody that's listening to this podcast and then everybody on here, we're hospitality pros, right? This is what we do. This is what our life is. And that's all I've ever done. So it's so personal to us, but the problem is there's so much noise right now. Daniel asked a question, do we need more media involved? The problem is we're getting drowned out, in my opinion, by all this other noise with the election and with bigger, quite frankly, the important COVID-19 issue. But I don't think people really understand the depth of the suffering that's going on. I live in a community here where we have walking paths, and I see neighbors of mine that are in tech and that are in pharma and that are in home supply. Home Depot's a big company down here.
Lucky them.
And listen, I tell them what's going on with my company. Like, hey, we're just doing everything we can to stay alive. And they're like, man, I'm sorry to hear that. We're doing great. And I'm like, so the problem is hospitality. We're so front facing. Everybody goes to hotels, so everybody thinks about us. But on the broad economy and on the broad news scale, we're not getting the traction. As hard as Chip and them are working to be on all the shows and tell everybody, I don't think they really understand how difficult it is. That I'm going to leave half of my associates that were laid off, permanently laid off until maybe 22.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's painful, Glenn. That gets me upset. It gets me upset.
Back in the early days, I think you had said you were trying to work with other industries to help make sure that some of those people have been employed. That was correct, right? Yeah,
we have a website set up on Chesapeake's website for everybody that was affected and laid off to help them find other resources in their market. And some of that's working, and because there is demand. I'm telling you, Amazon is hiring like crazy in Jacksonville. Home Depot's hiring like crazy.
Home Depot's doubled sales this year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if everybody watched it, but Lowe's went from $65 to $165 share price. I mean, it's crushing this year.
Hey guys, it looks like, I don't know, maybe we're running out of time, close, but can we keep it positive on a high note? And just, I want to say one thing, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yes, Anthony, no problem.
Gary V, right? Gary Vaynerchuk, you guys know him, right? He stresses this, and keep this in your minds whenever you guys are around your staff and your guests. Come from a place of gratitude, right? Keep it customer service centric and guest centric and staff centric, right? And the third most important thing in my mind is always keep in mind that it could be worse.
Yep, it sure could be worse. And the other thing I would add, I know that Anthony would say this, is do your job. Whatever your job is, do it, and do it the best that you possibly can. Nick, any final thoughts from you, sir?
No, absolutely. To John's point, this is the time where we need to stay positive. Obviously, recognizing that there's a lot of negative forces out there. At the same time, the only way that we can combat those is by harnessing our teams, our creativity, collaborating together. That's why I love the pop-up series that we have at Lapeer, because we're working with other small businesses coming together to make the best out of this situation. And ultimately, that's the only way that we're going to get through is circling the wagons and going through it together.
Right. Absolutely. All right, Nick, thank you so much. John, any final thought from you? I want to give you that official notice.
Okay. Here's the last thing I want to say. So we are in the hospitality industry, right? We are hospitality, right?
Yep.
Service, guys. Just keep it about service, whether it's at home, in the community, or with your hotel. Simple as that. And you'll be fine. Trust me, you'll be fine.
Excellent. Nick, John, thank you so much for an incredibly engaging show. Really, really appreciate you guys. We'll
Thanks,
see you again
guys.
real soon. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
So, Chris, before we wrap up, I just saw this question come in. That's really perfect for you. Is there a concern staff leaving the industry is going to create a talent drain in the long term, and that'll create a situation of recruiting issues?
I mean, we were there. Remember, we were there in 19. We were begging for people because we were at all-time
Over
record
1 million
highs.
jobs open.
I mean, and so now we're going to go backwards. I think it's going to be a while, Glenn. I don't think we're going to be back to those occupancies till further. There's still passion about the hospitality industry. I can't tell you how many people even still want to do internships and are in college wanting to do this great business. So I think we're going to be okay because we're going to be, unfortunately, building back slowly. It's not going to be a switch turning on overnight. So I think we're going to be okay. I mean, long term, what I fear is what happened in 01 and 08 is when we lost a lot of middle management, and then we saw nobody ready to be GMs. Okay, because everybody that dispersed, and that could be where I see the challenge is: did we lose our assistant directors of sales, our corporate sales managers? They went maybe to pharma, and we don't have any good candidates for DOS now because now when we come back. Somebody asked if I caught COVID. The answer is yes, I had it. So I want everybody to know. And that's, Glenn, that's a show we need to talk about because the interesting thing is once you've had it, people are like, what? Did you have the plague? I'm over it now. I don't understand. So, but let me go back to this thing. We're going to be bringing back salespeople differently now because there's going to be cross-market selling. So we need to make sure that we're investing in who we do have to take these roles when business starts returning because we're going to have less of them. That's just a fact.
Right. And I think that the overall theme is that with crisis, there comes opportunity. Are you going to let yourself be wallowed down with all of the negativity that's out there? Or are you going to be taking this moment to try to be positive, think of new solutions, open your mind to being successful in new and different ways that you didn't think of before? So, you got to really think differently, Chris. So what do you do to make sure that you're not just doing wash, rinse, repeat over and over and over again, which works so well during the great times, but are actively thinking about solutions that are going to be applicable going forward in this new era? I
mean, honestly, that's a tough question. And I'll tell you why it's tough. Because it's so murky out in front of us right now that we don't know what clarity is going to look like. Right. But I will tell you that we're spending time, and I've asked everybody on my team to be vision casting, if you will. Like, what do you think it looks like? If all the rules were off the table and you wanted to do everything better and you wanted to service it better, more efficiently, what would that look like? And we're looking at every solution. I'm also very, very curious about what other leaders in other industries have done for their staffs, for efficiencies. I mean, you look at companies like Amazon and, the Disney companies. I mean, they're just doing some really aggressive things. We need to be learning and listening and taking pieces from. I was at a local restaurant the other day, and I can't remember now what exactly it was, but something caught my eyes like, oh my gosh, that's genius. And I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. Before I forget, though, I want to say I love that guy, John, and I already love Nick. Nick runs a great hotel out there in West Hollywood, but that guy,
John is still here. He's giving you the thumbs up.
Oh, keep going, Chris. Keep going, brother.
That's an American small business owner who's crushing it and who's committed. And the thing about him is he's not crying. I mean, I know he's having a good week now, but he had some bad times. And he's not crying about it. He's taking a positive path forward. I wish Anthony was here because those two would be like hooping it up, over that. So.
For sure. I am crying, however, but that's only because not enough of you are sponsoring the show. Feel free to sponsor us. We're going out to thousands and thousands of people every day. Just drop me a line. I'm at Traveling Glenn, or find me on social media and advertise. Like how I got that shameless plug in there, Chris. I'm giving everyone shameless plugs. I forget to do it for myself sometimes.
Sponsor Anthony and Glenn, please. No vacancy. They need it. Sponsor the show.
Daniel, miss you, man. Keep doing your thing. Thank you, Daniel. We really appreciate all the positive energy you bring to us here every day. And I got to tell you, without you folks in the audience, obviously we wouldn't be doing this show, but we couldn't be doing it with such positive spirit because each and every one of you gives us that energy, gives us the desire, gives us the reason to be creative every day to come on here and hopefully give you some positive energy back as well.
I just hope people can hear how much we love this business. I mean, I don't have a backup plan. I mean, I don't know what I would do next, but I love hospitality and I'm going to do it till I'm done. Yep. And it's going to come back. It's going to be different. It's not going to be 100% different. It's going to be different. and there's going to be new ideas and bright faces and smiles, and we're going to be back shaking hands, I promise you, and sitting next to each other, shoulder to shoulder at a bar, I promise you. And man, I can't wait for that.
Man,
I can't wait.
I cannot wait to have a meal with you one day.
Yeah, man.
You know,
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up today's show, sir?
I want everybody to stay strong. I mean, listen, we're going to be flattish for the rest of the year, in my opinion. And some hotels are going to do a little better. Some are doing worse. PPP, we got to get another issue of that. So stay strong, stay focused. If you're at the operational level, do everything you can for every guest every day to keep them coming in. RevPAR matters right now, and just do those things and keep our business forefront. Talk about it to your neighbors, let them know what's going on, but stay positive, because we are literally going to it's going to be a grind, and the grinders are going to come out on top.
Yeah, I hear you. The only stuff I like coming out of the grinder is sausage. So let's hope that everything gets better. Guys, thank you so much for watching us today. We really appreciate it. Remember, subscribe to our newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. And Anthony's not here, but make sure you check out the Hospitality Success Face group on Facebook, because that's what Hospitality Success on Facebook. For all the things that you need to do to help you understand how to run your hotel operation better. Soon I'll be making an announcement about a whole new monograph video and audio series that I'm putting out with a couple of folks. I'm looking forward to announcing that shortly. And again, thank you all so much for being here. Chris, it's been great having you as a co-host today. I love Anthony, but
I'm moving up.
Right? All right, thanks for watching No Vacancy Live with Glenn and Chris. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Have a great day. And remember, you've got one life, so blaze on. And you know what to do here?
I don't.
Say, take care of yourself. So